Book of Heaven, Volume 15, Part 7. May 23rd, 1923. The will of God is fullness, and the one who lives in it must centralize everything within herself. His privations continue, and as my sweet Jesus made himself seen just a little, I said to him, "Tell me, my love, where have I offended you, that you run far away from me? My heart bleeds from the bitterness of the pain." And Jesus, "Have you perhaps withdrawn from my will?" And I, "No, no, may heaven free me from such a misfortune." And he, "And why then do you ask me where you have offended me? Only when the soul withdraws from my will, then does guilt enter. Ah, my daughter, in order to take full possession of my will, you must centralize within yourself all the interior states of all creatures, and as you move from one interior state to another, so do you take dominion over it. This happened in my mamma, and in my very humanity. How many pains, how many states of souls were centralized in us! Several times my dear mamma remained in the state of pure faith, and my moaning humanity was almost crushed under the enormous weight of all the sins and pains of all creatures. But while I suffered, I remained with the dominion of all the goods opposite to those sins and pains of creatures, and my dear mamma became queen of faith, of hope, and of love, dominator of light, has to be able to give faith, hope, love, and light to all. In order to give, it is necessary to possess, and in order to possess, it is necessary to centralize those pains within oneself, and by resignation and by love, change pains into goods, darkness into light, coldness into fire. My will is fullness, and the one who must live in it must enter the dominion of all possible and imaginable goods, as much as it is possible for a creature. How many goods can I not give to all? And how many can my inseparable mamma not give? And if we do not give more, it is because there is no one who takes, because we suffered everything, and while we were on earth, our dwelling was in the fullness of the divine will. Now it is your turn to follow our same path, and to dwell where we dwelt. Do you think that the living in our will is something trivial, or just like any other life, even holy? No, no, it is the all. Here one must embrace everything, and if something escapes, you cannot say that you live in the fullness of our will. Therefore be attentive, and always follow your flight in my eternal volition. May 25th, 1923. The divine will legitimizes souls as children of God. How everything was created for them. I felt as though immersed in the eternal volition, and my always lovable Jesus, drawing me to himself, transported me outside of myself showing me heaven and earth. And as he was showing me this, he told me, "Beloved daughter of our supreme will, see this whole machine of the universe, heavens, sun, seas, and all the rest, was created by us to give it as a gift. But do you know to whom? To the ones who would do our will. Everything was given to them as to our legitimate children. We did this for the decorum of our works, depositing them and giving them as gift, not to foreign people or to illegitimate children who would not understand the great goods contained in them, nor appreciate the greatness and the sanctity of our works. On the contrary, they would waste them and despise them. On the other hand, by giving them to our legitimate children, since in each created thing there is a distinct love and a special good for the one to whom the gift is directed, our will, dwelling in them and forming its very life in them, would make them comprehend all these loves, one distinct from the other, that are present in the whole creation, as well as all the specialties of goods. So they would give us requital for each distinct love, and glory and honor for all the goods given to them. Our will that had created them with one fiat, and that knew all the secrets, dwelling in our legitimate children, with another fiat would reveal our secrets contained in all created things, and would make them give us love for love. The harmonies, the communications, would be reciprocal between them and us. And even though it seems that those who do not do our will enjoy and take part in them, yet the gifts are not theirs. It is as indirect cause, as usurpers, and as illegitimate children. More so, since my will not dwelling in them, they understand nothing, or very little of my love that all creation brings to them, and of the great goods present in it. Even more, many don't even know who created so many things. True foreign people, who, while living of the things that belong to me, do not even want to recognize me. So this great gift of the whole universe was delivered by my celestial Father to my humanity as to the true legitimate Son, and there was nothing for which I did not requite him. Gift for gift, love for love. Then came my celestial Mother, who so well was able to requite her Creator. And then the children of my will have come, whom my will was to legitimize as its own children. This is why all creation exults with joy, makes feast and smiles, when, as I draw you outside of yourself, together with me it recognizes the legitimate daughter of the Supreme Will, its master. All created things would want to run up onto your lap and around you, not only to make feast for you, but to be appreciated, defended, and held as gifts of their Creator. And they all compete to give you, each one of them, distinct love, and the gift that each created thing contains. Some want to give you the gift of the beauty of your Creator, and the love that beauty contains. Some the gift of power, and the love that power contains. Some the gift of wisdom, some of goodness, some of sanctity, some of light, some of purity, as well as the distinct loves contained in wisdom, goodness, sanctity, light, purity, and so forth. So my will knocks down all the barriers that exist between the soul and God. It places her in harmony between heaven and earth. It reveals all the secrets contained in the whole creation, and it renders her the depository of all the gifts of God. May 29th, 1923. How God is always the first to operate in the soul. I was accompanying my sweet Jesus in his pains, especially in what he suffered in the Garden of Gethsemane. And while I compassionated him, moving in my interior, he told me, "My daughter, the first to form the crafting of my pains in my humanity was my celestial Father, because he alone had the strength and the power to create pain and to place in it as many degrees of pain as were needed in order to be satisfied for the debt of creatures, for as much as was needed. Creatures were secondary, because they had no power over me, nor the ability to create pain as intense as they wanted. The same happens in all creatures. In creating man, the first crafting, both in the soul and in the body, was done by my Divine Father. How much harmony, how much happiness did he not form with his own hands in the human nature? Everything is harmony and happiness in man. The mere external part, how many harmonies and happinesses does it not contain? The eyes see, the mouth expresses, the feet walk, while the hands operate and take things up to where the feet have reached. If the eyes could see, but man did not have the mouth to express himself, if he had feet to walk, but no hands to operate, would there not be unhappiness and disharmony in the human nature? And then the harmonies and happinesses of the human soul, the will, the intellect, the memory. How many harmonies and happinesses do they not contain? It is enough to say that they are births from the happiness and harmony of the Eternal One. God created his true personal Eden in the soul and in the body of man, an Eden all celestial, and then he gave him the terrestrial Eden as dwelling. Everything was harmony and happiness in the human nature, and even though sin upset this harmony and happiness, it did not completely destroy all the good that God had created in man. So just as God created with his own hands all the happiness and harmony in the creature, so did he create all possible pains in me, to be repaid for the human ingratitude, and to make the lost happiness come out of the sea of my pains, as well as the accord for the upset harmony. And this happens to all creatures. When I must choose them for a distinct sanctity, or for my special designs, it is my own hands that work in the soul, and I create in her now suffering, now love, now the cognitions of celestial truths. My jealousy is such that I want no one to touch her, and if I allow creatures to do something to her, it is always in the secondary order. but I myself hold the primacy, and I keep forming her according to my design. June 6, 1923. The sign that the soul is all of God is that she has a taste for nothing but Him. I was concerned about the reason why my Jesus was not coming, and I said to myself, who knows what evil there is in my interior, that Jesus hides Himself so as not to be displeased. And He, moving in my interior, told me, my daughter, the sign that there is nothing evil and that the interior of the soul is completely filled with God is that nothing is left to her that is not all mine, and whatever may happen inside and outside of her, she no longer has a taste for anything. Her taste is only for me and of me, and not only with profane or indifferent things, but also with holy things, pious people, services, music, and so forth. Everything is cold for her, indifferent, and like things that do not belong to her. And the reason is natural. If the soul is completely filled with me, she is also filled with my tastes. My taste is hers, and other tastes find no place in which to put themselves. Therefore, as beautiful as they may be, they hold no attraction for the soul. Rather, they are as though dead for her. On the other hand, the soul who is not completely mine is empty, and as things surround her, she feels as many tastes within herself, if those are things that she likes. If, on the other hand, those are things that she does not like, she feels disgust. So she is in a continuous alternation of tastes and disgusts. And since any taste that did not come from me is not lasting, many times tastes turn into disgusts. And this is why many variations of character can be noticed. Now, too sad. Now, too cheerful. Now, all irascible. Another time, all affable. It is the void of me that she has in her soul that gives her so many variations of character, in nothing similar to mine, as I am always equal, and I never change. Now, do you have any taste for what exists down here? What do you fear? That there might be some evil in you, such that, displeased, I hide myself? Wherever I am, there cannot be evils. And my love, I don't feel like getting a taste for anything, as good as it might be. And besides, you know it better than I. How can I get a taste for other things, if the pain of your privation absorbs me, embitters me down to the marrow of my bones, makes me forget everything, and the only thing that is present to me and driven into my heart is the nail that I am without you? And Jesus, and this tells you that you are mine, and that you are filled with me, because every taste has this power. If it is my taste, it transforms the creature into me. If it is natural taste, it overwhelms her into human things. If it is a taste for passions, It casts her into the current of evil. It seems that a taste is something trivial, yet it is not so. It is the first act either of good or of evil. And take a look at how it is so. Why did Adam sin? Because he removed his gaze from the divine attraction, and as Eve presented to him the fruit to let him eat of it, he looked at the fruit, and his sight took pleasure in looking at it. His hearing took delight in hearing the words of Eve, that if he ate the fruit, he would become like God. And his palate took pleasure in eating it. So, taste was the first act of his ruin. On the other hand, had he felt displeasure in looking at it, tedium and bother in hearing the words of Eve, disgust in eating it, Adam would not have sinned. On the contrary, he would have done the first heroic act of his life by resisting and correcting Eve for having done that. And he would have remained with the everlasting crown of faithfulness toward he to whom he owed so much, and who had all the rights for his subjection. Oh, how careful one must be with the different tastes that arise in the soul. If they are purely divine tastes, one must give them life. But if they are human tastes, or of passions, one must give them death. Otherwise there is the danger of falling into the current of evil. June 10th, 1923. The office of victim, and what it means to be deposed from it. In order to live in the divine will, the door through which to enter is the humanity of Jesus. I was lamenting to my sweet Jesus about his privations, and I thought to myself, who knows what is the reason why he is not coming? And if it is true, as sometimes he made me understand, that he does not come because of the chastisements, since, given the state of victim in which he keeps me, if he comes, having to communicate pains to me because of the office I occupy, he feels his arms being broken. And since justice wants to punish as the creatures forces it to do so, because of this he does not come. So if this is the case, then he should remove me from the state of victim. As long as he comes, I care little about everything else. What I care about is Jesus, my life, my all. Everything else is nothing for me. Now, while I was thinking of this and other things, my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior and surrounding my neck with his arm, told me, "My daughter, what are you saying? Deposing you from your office? You do not know what it means to lose dominion, to lose the right of command, to no longer be able to dispose of anything. In fact, when a person is in office, he can always dispose. If he is a judge, he can judge. He has the right to issue condemnation and also to absolve. It may be that for days or weeks he does not exercise his office because there are no occasions. But in spite of this, he receives his pay, maintains his rights, and as guilty or righteous people present themselves, he is at his post of judge and can defend and condemn. But if he is deposed, he loses all his rights and is reduced to inability, and so with all other offices. Therefore, content yourself with being without me sometimes, rather than wanting to be deposed from your office. Otherwise you shall also lose the right of having the deserved scourges be held back in part. And if it seems to you that because of the lack of pains of a few days you do nothing, your remaining in office is always something, and what you do not do one day, as I come to you and find you in your office, you can do on another day. But this is not all. It is the least part. The most essential is that in order to live in my will, the door through which to enter, the first link of connection, is my humanity. My humanity was indeed the first and true victim, that because of the office given to me by my celestial Father, lived as sacrificed and completely crucified in the divine will. And by virtue of the power of my eternal volition, it was able to multiply my life for all and for each one. And just as by the power of one single fiat, I multiplied so many created things, giving to each creature the right to make them her own, in the same way, the power of my will multiplied one single life, so that each one might have me for himself alone, as help, as defense, as refuge, however he wanted me. This is all the greatness, the good, the all, the infinite distance between living in my will and living in a different way, even good and holy. The multiplication of one act into as many acts as one wants, enough for as many as want to make use of them. Now, if I deposed you from your office, not only would you not occupy my office on earth, since you would not be in my humanity, that even though it did much, impetrating so much good for man, yet did not take the rights, the honor, the decorum away from my justice when it would require to punish man justly. Rather, I would resign myself. But in lacking the link of connection, you would not be able to live in my will. You would lose dominion. Your acts would become mere intentions. And when you say, "My Jesus, in your will I love you, I bless you, I thank you for all, I feel sorrow for each offense," and so forth, your acts would not hover over each human act to become act of each human act, love for each love that creatures should give me. You would not follow all my acts that are present in my will. You would remain behind. They would be pious intentions at most, that can do some good, but not acts for all, that may give life, and that contain the power of our creative will. And yet how many times you tell me, "Since you have called me into your will, do not leave me behind. O Jesus, let it be so that together with you I may follow the acts of creation, to requite you for the love of all created things, as well as those of redemption and of sanctification, so that wherever your acts and your love are present, there may be the requital of mine." And now you want me to leave you behind? I remained confounded, and did not know what to answer. Good Jesus disposes as he best pleases. and everything for His glory. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 15, Part 7. Fiat.